Our top story today, the U.S. Air Force along with the Red Cross are trying to save lives of Guatemalans following Sunday's volcanic eruption. But as CBS's Laura Podesta explains, rain and more volcanic activity are hindering search and rescue efforts.
New images released overnight show victims of the volcano in Guatemala being taken into a Texas hospital by Red Cross workers and members of the U.S. Air Force. 6 people suffering from burns after Sunday's eruption were flown to the U.S. for emergency treatment. In Guatemala, water and much-needed food is finally reaching some communities that until now have been cut off from aid. It's estimated 1.7 million people have been affected by the disaster. Volcán de Fuego remains active, with crews on edge as they continue digging through feet of ash and debris looking for bodies. Efforts were cut short again yesterday when a downpour forced teams to retreat for fear of mudslides.
It's struck them really hard. It's all of a sudden, a lot of the victims, they still haven't found them yet.
Back in Texas, the owner of this Guatemalan bakery is mobilizing. Teaming up with a Houston church, they're raising money to send down to the affected communities.
They need things like, stuff for burn victims, different types of medicine, diapers, water.
The threat is not over yet. Scientists in Guatemala are warning of new flows on the volcano's western slope. People are being advised to evacuate the area if they haven't already. Laura Podesta, CBS News, New York.
And some Guatemalans are telling CBS News they chose not to evacuate for fear of looters raiding their homes. Also making this morning's headlines, 4 members of the Mesa, Arizona Police Department have been placed on leave after video emerged of a violent May 23rd arrest. It shows the officers repeatedly punching and kicking an unarmed man inside an apartment building. Mesa police say he was being uncooperative and appeared to be getting ready to fight them. And a 63-year-old grandmother sentenced to life is now free. Alice Marie Johnson was released from prison Wednesday evening, hours after President Trump commuted her sentence. Last week, reality TV star Kim Kardashian met with the president and asked him to intervene in the case. Johnson had served more than 20 years on a drug trafficking charge. Other action taken by President Trump, he signed the VA Missions Act into law, which will change how American veterans receive health care. Montana Senator Jon Tester co-authored the Senate version of the bill and said, quote, "Montana veterans deserve more than a thank you. They deserve a health care system that works for them, whether it's a VA clinic or a local community doctor." The big change is a new option for veterans to seek care from a private doctor outside the VA system. Senator Tester was not invited to the White House for Wednesday's signing ceremony, but Senator Steve Daines was present. Earlier in the day, he spoke about the bill on the Senate floor.
The problems plaguing the VA aren't just occasional news stories. They are the daily reality for Montana veterans. Enough is enough.
The VA currently serves as many as 9 million veterans across America. The bill also expands the VA caregiver program for families of disabled veterans. Well, back here in Montana, 2 Roundup residents were among the 3 people killed in a head-on crash south of Grass Range. The accident happened around 5:30 Tuesday evening on U.S. Highway 87. 29-year-old Chelsea Simpson and 24-year-old Gage Hall, both of Roundup, died in the crash. The identity of the 3rd victim, a male, has not yet been released. The Montana Highway Patrol says an SUV traveling south attempted to change lanes to pass another vehicle and slammed into another SUV head-on. Meanwhile, the woman reportedly involved in a hit and run that killed a pedestrian last week pleads not guilty to vehicular homicide. 22-year-old Tesha Williams was initially charged with negligent vehicular assault, but the charge increased after the victim, Sterling Bruder Dominguez, died from his injuries over the weekend. Court documents state Williams hit Bruder Dominguez, who was walking on the sidewalk on 8th Street West near Alderson Avenue. When located about 2 miles away, her vehicle was damaged and blood was on the bumper. Charging documents state Williams was intoxicated and denied hitting anyone and said any damage to her car was already there. Taking a look back at Tuesday's primary turnout for Yellowstone County, it came close to an all-time record for an off-presidential year. 43% of Yellowstone County's 96,000 registered voters cast ballots on Tuesday. That was slightly higher than the statewide turnout of 41%. Perhaps the most startling takeaway from Tuesday's voting was the lack of people who actually went to the polls to vote. Elections Administrator Brett Rutherford tells us only 1,629 people voted at the county's 14 polling places Tuesday. That's just 1.7% of registered voters. Also out of the ordinary this year, the amount of people who chose to drop off their absentee ballots in person rather than mail them in. Rutherford estimates 80% of the ballots turned in at the courthouse Tuesday were delivered in person. Statewide voter turnout was also much higher than typical midterm elections, which added some delays in reporting results. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian has more on that from Helena.
Secretary of State Corey Stapleton's office says more than 280,000 Montana voters cast ballots in Tuesday's primary election. That would be the most votes ever cast in the state for a midterm primary. Voter turnout was around 41%, the highest in a midterm primary since 1994.
It bodes well for the fall that there's going to be interest in all sorts of the races, not just the federal races, but the legislative races drew lots of interest too.
More than 70% of voters cast absentee ballots, meaning lines at the polling places were relatively short in most places. Stapleton says overall, Election Day voting ran smoothly.
What we do here is look for big problems, and we didn't have them. So we didn't have any equipment failures, we didn't have ballots that didn't feed into the systems, and so we were able to avoid some of the pitfalls from the past.
Some people did notice delays in the results reported on the Secretary of State's website. Some counties, including Lewis and Clark, had issues with the automated system used to upload their results to the site. Stapleton asked the public to be patient when looking for the vote totals.
You don't want to sacrifice doing things really, really well by doing them quickly, and so we don't want to put pressure on clerks to get the information updated any quicker than they're ready to, because then people make mistakes.
In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
Provisional ballots will be counted next week. After that, Stapleton expects several recounts will be necessary. Now, here's a happy follow-up for you. 2 baby owls rescued at a Livingston Elementary School have been released back into the wild. The owlets weren't old enough to be on their own when they were rescued after someone threw rocks at their nest, killing their mother. The nearby Montana Raptor Conservation Center took in the owlets to help rehab them to full health. The center's Jordan Spike tells us his crew worked quickly to return the owlets to the wild.
We had a quick turnaround process with those fledglings. They were in good shape, they were healthy, so we worked with a property owner to find the perfect nest for those guys, and we're able to get them back out there.
The Raptor Conservation Center released the owlets together less than 1 week after the rescue. Staying on the topic of animals, the Billings Police Department recently welcomed 2 new four-legged officers into its ranks. Q2's Connor Pragetzer shows us what the new recruits look like in action.
The Billings Police Force has officially introduced 2 new dogs into its K9 unit. On Wednesday, we officially got to meet Susan and Dutch and watch them spring into action.
Billings Police K9, come out now! Set my dog and you won't be bit! Oh yeah!
Susan and Dutch join Kuko and Cuff to form BPD's K9 unit. K9 Officer David Firebaugh says that the dogs allow for a more efficient use of manpower and reduce the risk to human officers in certain scenarios.
So rather than taking a beat call or a beat car away from maybe responding to an accident or investigating a lost child or fake dollar bills being passed or some other patrol function, I now have the opportunity to take and say, hey, I'll go collect that stuff. Violent Offender Task Force, they have a house contained and they have an offender inside that's known, but he's hiding from them. We can respond to that call for service, and as they're searching that house, we can use the dog to help locate or apprehend that person rather than having the officers take and go inside there potentially and get hurt. Sometimes just the mere presence alone is enough for people to say, no, I don't want to get bit by a dog today. I'll take and do what the nice police officers are asking me to do.
He also notes the increased use of the dogs in recent years.
We're using the dogs with much greater frequency, I would say, than in years past, to take and do all kinds of things from search and rescue to cadaver recovery to finding drugs. We talked about one of the new ones is now electronic devices for the child pornographers and the human traffickers. They're using them on the border to take and find people that are being smuggled in. They'll search for the human odor of people in containers, all that type of stuff.
Ultimately, he believes the dogs better the police force and the communities that they serve.
But that's our responsibility, is to show that we're worthy of that asset, your time, your money, your vote, to take and do that. If we can demonstrate that we'll do good work with what you provide for us, yeah, I'd like to see more so that we can give more back.
In Billings, Connor Pregetzer, MTN News.
And we're told both Susan and Dutch can expect to have police careers that span about 6 years.